So I'm going to be presenting today on Urbit, and I'm going to present to everyone, and I'm going to do the right thing. Haha. Okay. So this is a large open source project. It's very ambitious. So I'm just going to jump right in. There's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to say, and I swear all of it is going to be because if you don't understand, it's because the project is so complicated, not because I'm not explaining it correctly. It's them, not you. Yeah, it's yeah. So anyway, so what is Urbit? That's a great question. Basically, Urbit can be thought of as a new internet. So Urbit is a secure peer-to-peer network of personal servers built on a clean slate software stack system. There's an errant word in there. What that means functionally is that it is a whole new operating system, a whole new functional language, and a whole new way of networking between computers that's built on top of the present internet. Now, you might be asking yourself, we already have an internet. It's already kind of a pain. Why would we want a new internet? And so what I'm going to propose to you is that the problems that exist with our current way of networked computing are technical problems that need technical solutions. They're not merely a matter of policy or bad actors or anything like that. So I'm going to present 3 problems to you, 3 ways Urbit addresses those problems, and then we'll go into a little bit more technical detail, and I'll try to keep everyone from falling asleep. This is supposed to be a GIF of a man deleting his own computer. But I'm sorry if this is distracting. I didn't realize it was going to loop the entire time. Essentially, if you think about computing as all of your data and all of the operations you can do with your data, then you start to understand that computing as it exists nowadays is not just the devices that you have in your hands or on your desktop, but it comprises Dropbox and Google Drive and Instagram and Twitter and whatever other thing the kids are using nowadays, in that you're generating all this data and you can do operations upon those data. Unfortunately, the reality is you actually have access to that data. You don't have control of that data. And a good way to think about that is that the person who actually controls that data can do operations upon that data that you can't do. And the most fundamental, as Russell pointed out to me yesterday, is delete it, right? You cannot delete your Facebook account. Facebook has the right to just keep it around forever. So the reason that it came to be this way and re-centralized essentially is, from an Urbit point of view, has to do with the actual technologies that we use to run these systems. So we have Unix boxes that are wired together using TCP/IP. And the Urbit solution to that is to get rid of both of those things, right? So let's replace TCP/IP, let's replace Unix, and let's replace it with an integrated system. The idea being that what we have now is complex, partially because of historical reasons. We're essentially trying to patch together a whole bunch of 70s era software and make it do things that it wasn't ever designed to do. And that's always going to yield a complex blob that needs to be administered by a professional. The idea against that is to give everyone an Urbit-based system that they control. And then those can network together as a peer-to-peer system, as opposed to just a whole bunch of different silos. So that's one problem that we have. Another one is spammability. So the internet is at present a very unfriendly place. There's a lot of reasons behind this, but there's a lot of resources that go into making it friendlier. But one of the reasons that the core reasons that this is the case is the ability to generate new identities essentially for free. So if I'm sending abusive messages to Jeff, basically exactly like I do, he reports me, he gets me banned from Slack or whatever I am on, wherever I'm abusing him, and I can just remake a new identity for free essentially. And so this is the problem behind spam email. It's a problem behind abuse on Twitter, trolling on Twitter, any number of Sybil attacks where you have multiple identities that are under the control of one person. So Urbit gets around that by essentially having a fixed identity that goes with your Urbit system. So what that means is that you have the pronounceable equivalent of an IP address. So mine, for example, is Poldek Tonteg. That is my immutable identity on the whole Urbit network. If I were to do something wrong, then I would suffer repercussions to my reputation. I can be blacklisted, whatever you want to do, but I can't get a new one. So this leads to, you'd hope, behavior like the real world where I don't just abuse people in public because I would have social repercussions for that. So the idea that we can get rid of spam by having immutable identities is one of the tenets behind the Urbit system. Yes, Than?
How do they prevent you from getting a new one?
There is a finite amount of them. And so as of right now, you have to purchase them. So the idea is to make the purchase price be more than you would get from the spam, right? So if you're going to send, each email address costs $10 to get, whatever scam you're trying to do better make you more than $10. Otherwise, you're losing money. That's the idea. So you just have a finite supply.
With finite or controlled rate?
Finite.
You just get rid of the low performing spam. You only get
You only get real high level spam. Yeah. So con man you always have.
Lose more money with the spam.
Was that?
I think this is
Yeah, exactly.
Success case from the XKCD comic.
So, and then finally, and this is I believe this is sort of a social technical solution to a problem, but precarity, we all are constantly using things that are breaking all the time, and the more internet enabled they are, the more they break. And partially that has to do with the fact that you're trying to build a house on shifting sands. So one of the ways that Urbit gets around this, and this is more of a policy than a technical thing, is it uses what's called Kelvin versioning. The idea here is that you count down to 0. So you give yourself maybe 300 integers and you count down to 0 for each release. The idea being that we're approaching a state where the software will be frozen and will not be changed ever again. Now there are a few things in the Urbit system that are approaching that. I'm not sure what, I'm going to talk about them in a second, but there's a few that are in very, very low Kelvin version. The idea being that at some point the software should be so boring and so straightforward, it never has to be, you can build on top of it, but the software itself doesn't have to be changed anymore. So hopefully that would yield systems that were less precarious and don't expose all of these problems that have to do with compatibility and things going out of sync. Another metaphor that the Urbit community uses is a palm tree. So, right, the palm tree, all the rings of the palm tree are the frozen elements of the software stack, and then the fronds have all the flexibility you could ever want. And so that's kind of what we aspire to do, is to make sure those applications are fronds, but the base is totally frozen. So these are 3 problems that we think have technical solutions from an Urbit point of view. Now, what is the Urbit system actually comprised of? So one element, the base of that palm tree, is called knock. So knock can be read as pseudocode. I think it fits on a t-shirt. That's the thing they always say. It's basically a function that everything is compiled onto this function. Knock right now runs as a Unix process, but you can imagine that VM running on bare metal. So it's better to think about the knock as the virtual assembly code of Urbit. And what this also means is that my ship, for lack of a better term, which is what the Urbit, the instance is called, I can zip that instance up, I can take it to another computer and run it there. So it's all self-contained. Hoon is the name of the functional language, and the aspiration with Hoon was to make a functional language that, as I put here, didn't require a PhD in category theory or physics, as the case may be, to run. So the idea here is that you have some of the benefits of Haskell of a functional language, but it becomes a little bit more straightforward to use. Now, I'm going to show you a picture of it, and you might argue that it actually is more cryptic. But this is an example of how you would write fizzbuzz in Hoon. And so I won't go into this. There's a lot of weird words that are required to explain this. But the thing that you see right here is it uses essentially ASCII punctuation in lieu of keywords. So that bar equal sign means a certain thing, and et cetera and so forth. So this is what Hoon looks like.
God, it's not Turing complete, it's a Turing machine.
Yes. So the OS itself that Urbit uses is called Arvo. And so Arvo is best understood as a messaging protocol between the various modules of the OS, right? So this basically means, and underneath this, there's a file system called Clay that is its own version-controlled file system in the global namespace, which is very cool. There is, of course, the boring stuff like a web server and an application server and so on. So Arvo is just a way to route messages between those different modules. So that's what Urbit is. And so what can we do with Urbit? The idea,
Should that be Behold?
what's that?
That'd be Behold the communism?
No. Without the communism, sans communism. But that was kind of fraunchy. I just wanted to use English, So the idea is those of you who are unfamiliar with WeChat, it's essentially it provides a unified interface to internet services. So if I want to bank with one bank and I want to change my bank, I just pick another bank from a drop-down menu and use the same interface. I'm not going to a different website for everything. So this works in China for obvious socio-political reasons. It probably would be kind of chafed at in the United States. The idea is, were everyone running their own Urbit instance on the cloud, Urbit, that instance can interface with all the various applications and then provide that unified interface to the internet for you. And because it is a computer that we control, it's a general purpose computer that we control, it wouldn't violate the terms of service of those various, it wouldn't violate the terms of service of those various services. Versus right now, if you try to do that, try to provide a service that mashed up people's Facebook and Twitter timelines, you could just, just wait for Facebook's lawyers to come find you. If you do it on a general purpose computer that you own, they can't actually prevent you from doing that. So that's kind of the near term, and that's a very realistic thing for Urbit to do. In the future, this is a screenshot from the movie Her, which I thought was a very cheesy movie, but I thought it was presented a very interesting view of technology in that in the movie Her, there's a lot of mind-blowing things that are happening, but it's all behind the scenes. You don't see a lot of technology. In fact, the more the technology is able to do, the more it recedes into the background. And the promise with something like Urbit is that since everyone would have their own instance, it would be totally personalized to that person. Your personalization wouldn't be a profile on Mark Zuckerberg's computer. It would be a computer that you own.